Well, on the behalf of Jim and myself and all of our extended family, just want to thank you for coming today to celebrate the life of Mary Russell Bartee. Some of you have really put out great effort to be here, and I just want you to know how special, how meaningful that is to Jim and to the rest of our family. Very honored that you are here. Funeral times are, it's a surreal type of situation. It's very, it's difficult sometimes to hold all of our emotions together, but I invite you to do that. It's certainly sad when we lose a loved one from here, but at the same time, our faith informs us that there is life better at another place. And sometimes it's difficult for us to be sad and to be grateful and to even be joyous at the same time. But I invite you to do that with us today. Mom lived a long, full life. She really did. She got to enjoy a lot of things. And for some of you that may not know the exact nature of the last days, in October of about 18 months ago, she fell and broke her hip. I think it broke in about 6 places along with her elbow. And she had surgery to repair her hip, and during the time that she was in the hospital, she suffered a stroke, a small stroke. And from then, she went into rehab at Mesa Springs, a wonderful facility that took excellent care of her. But she was, at that age, she was not able to really get back up and move as much. And with the stroke, began the slow process then of, what we all know would be inevitable. And so last Saturday, she succumbed to that and traveled on that final journey. She loved to travel, and she made that final travel Saturday. I will tell you, and I'm quite proud of this, that she handled all of those 18 months with the same kind of grace that you might expect from her. She was tough. She never complained at all about her physical position or pain or anything like that. And she was very well liked at Mesa Springs rehab, and for that I'm grateful. It means a little something to me. You just never know, but the nurses and the attendants really did love her. So today, as we celebrate her life, in your own way, whatever your memories are, whatever comes or emerges to you, just go with that. And remember Mary like that, and it will be an honor to her and to all of us. So, will be a couple of recorded songs that were her favorites, and then Brother Oglesby will bring some reflections.
Tis guide and stay can guide and stay can be. Through cloud and sunshine, oh, abide with me. Abide with me. Hold thou thy cross before my closing eyes. Shine through the gloom and point me to the skies. Morning breaks and earth's vain shadows flee. In life, in death, O Lord, abide with me. Abide with me.
Mary LaWanda Russell Bartee was born January 13, 1932, to Ridge and Bessie Jo Russell of Pampa, Texas. Born at home during a howling blizzard, Mary joined her older brother Billy to live in the country between Pampa and Miami, Texas. Subsequently, 3 younger siblings joined the family: Carolyn, Mark, and Linda. Mary grew up in the house she was born in, attending a one-room country schoolhouse where all 8 grades sat together. Her 9th grade year took her from the wheat field to town, where she graduated Pampa High School, class of 1950. Mary met Jim Bartee at church in the summer of 1947. Jim was a native of Hollis, Oklahoma, and was visiting his family while on summer break. Little did they know that this would launch a relationship spanning 75 years with countless adventures across the world. Jim and Mary married on Easter Sunday, March 25th, 1951, and set up their household in Abilene, Texas. Mary worked for Western Union and Western Cotton Oil before following Jim to Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi, spring of 1953. Mary began to work for the maintenance officer at Keesler Air Force Base, which set her up to become the second woman ever hired at Dice Air Force Base in Abilene, Texas, 1955. Later in life, while living in Seoul, Korea, Mary served the 8th Army MASH unit, the one made famous by that popular TV show. After serving in the Korean War, Jim returned to finish his education in electrical engineering, and Mary later gave birth to a son on May 27, 1959. They named him Clay. This would be their only child. Jim's career provided opportunities for employment both overseas in Korea and Italy. And while traveling, Mary began to develop her love of painting, an art form she continued until her health began to fail. While back in Abilene, Mary painted what she loved: flowers, landscapes, family, friends. Mary is survived by her husband of 71 years, Jim Bartee, 93, of Abilene, Texas. Her youngest sister, Linda Russell Smith, her son, Clay Bartee, his wife, Lisa, niece, Leslie Allison Smith, niece, Angie Allison Mode, and the other nephews and nieces that were too numerous to mention here. In addition, she is survived by 3 grandchildren: Chris Bartee, wife Brooke, Casey Bartee Owens, husband Matt, Callie Bartee, wife Lindsay. Also 5 great-grandchildren, Keelan Bartee, Connor Bartee, Corey Bartee, Jack Owens, and Eleanor Owens. Mary was fortunate to live a long, full life, which included traveling to some of the most beautiful places in the world, enjoying friends and family, and spending time with her art. Jim reflects about Mary through scriptures found in Proverbs 31. A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. She brings her husband good, not harm, all the days of her life. Her husband praises her. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the reward she has earned, and let her works be praised at heaven's gates. Mary, Mom, may you rest in peace.
We are assembled today to mark the passing of someone we all loved, Mary Bartee. Each one of us today has suffered a loss, and Mary has finished a journey that started 90 years ago. It came to an end in our time. But we pause today to tell Mary's story. The reason we do this is because telling her story will inspire us. And telling her story will make us appreciate our own story. So why are each of us here today? What are our stories? Well, there's something that drew each of you here. There's a tie, there's an experience, there's a moment in time that marked Mary out in your memory. But there's something that drew me here today. You might say, well, that's fairly easy to figure out. They ask you to make a speech. But let me assure you, if I were not here to make this speech, I would still be here to listen and to remember. I met the Bartees about 60 years ago, when I was chosen as the first pulpit minister of the Waterview Church in Richardson, Texas, where they were charter members. When I came there and when I even interviewed there, it was mostly young adults. And they had a dream. And that dream was to establish a congregation that would bring honor to God and get all of us to heaven. To do a thing like that, you need a recipe, like the cook does when they go to the kitchen. What is the recipe for building a new congregation? Probably hundreds of them. But this is the one that we experienced. You open the recipe book and it says, take a small building in the northern edge of Dallas and build it there. You add to that growing congregation, composed mostly of either 20 or 40-year-old, 30-year-olds actually. And then you stir in a boatload of electrical engineers, of which Jim was one. You start with no elders at first, and that gives you an interesting blessing. You go to men's business meetings to figure out what the church will do. You went to a place where when you spent an hour discussing the big question, do we put a clock in the auditorium? You can't believe it would take an hour to do that, but when you're young, you're looking at everything. Jim and I got acquainted, and we served more than the average together. And that is, he was the head of the education committee, he was the chairman, and I was a part of that committee. Later, Jim became an elder of the Waterview Church. But Mary did service as well. She's taught children in the Bible class. She was involved in women's ministries of all kinds. And then last of all, we were pulled together by some similarities that we had. For instance, two sons, Robert and Clay. They were the same age, and they were good friends. They went to kindergarten together. They played football together, with Jim as the coach, of course. They were both active in the youth programs at Waterview. And as I look back now, I have to ask myself, could I have seen that these two little boys would both wind up professors at a university? Pretty long odds for that one. But it happened. It happened well. That's the background of how you and I got here. And with the background, you have to also ask the question, though, but we're here to talk about Mary. What is Mary's story? Well, you've heard really all the facts, all the landmarks of her life. But my purpose today and my mission is to blend those facts into a larger context so that we can appreciate them even more. Now, I'm sure Mary's early years were good ones, but I have told many a bride, you probably can't imagine how your life is going to change when you get married. And Jim and Mary met each other, and they were married in 1951. Jim had some Army service, and Mary went with him in those things, and she oftentimes was employed as a person in the things done on an Army base. And in time, she was, with other things, she was going to distant places, far away places that you could only dream about if you lived in Texas. But while she was doing that, she pursued the things you've already heard about, just a little. She had an interest in beautiful things. She loved things like flowers and landscapes and family and friends. And she painted most of them. But with her travels in the world, looking for beauty, she became a collector with a vengeance. She had things from everywhere, and she loved them all. But I have to tell you, from the moment I started thinking about this moment here, I had a poem that came to my mind, and it just fit so well about Mary's life and her pursuit of beauty. Rudyard Kipling wrote this poem, and it tells a story. When Earth's last picture is painted, and the tubes are twisted and dry, when the oldest colors have faded and the youngest critic has died, we shall rest, and faith, we shall need it. Lie down for an eon or two, till the master of all good workmen shall put us to work anew. And those that were good shall be happy. They'll sit in a golden chair, and they'll splash at a 10-league canvas with brushes of comet's hair. They'll find real saints to draw from, Magdalene, Peter, and Paul. They'll work for an age at a sitting and never be tired at all. And only the Master shall praise us, and only the Master shall blame. And no one will work for the many, not the money, and no one will work for the fame, but each for the joy of working, and each in his separate star will draw the things as he sees it, for the God of things as they are. The pursuit of beauty with God. So, Jim didn't use the words of Rudyard Kipling, but he used words of King Solomon. When he described Mary, she was a version of what Solomon and all of us call the worthy woman. It's a woman who is as priceless as rubies, and her husband praises her. But my contact, my moment, came many, many times. But several stand out. One morning years ago, Mary was scheduled for surgery. The little hospital there in Richardson. She went, and of course, as you know, surgeries take place early in the morning. So I was up at 5, and I was there at 6 to be with Mary and with Jim, to encourage and to soothe them. But when I walked in, Mary looked up at me from the bed, and she said, "Now I know I am special." Because she said, "I know how you'd hate to get up early in the morning." And she was right. She was special. But there's a later event that sticks in my mind very strongly. Several years ago, that's just a few years ago, we went to Austin to have a kind of a small reunion of people that knew each other and people that shared Waterview. And we were in a hotel, all of us, but our room was right next to Jim and Mary's room. We went to bed that night were sound asleep, and in the dead of night, the fire alarm went off in the hotel. And it says, you got to go out, get out of the building. And it says it urgently. So we throw on any clothes we've got that covers up pajamas, and down we went. 7 flights of stairs. You don't take the elevator, not during the fires there. And when we got to the bottom, just as we got there, finished those 7 flights of stairs, huffing and puffing, the voice said, go back to your rooms. It's been canceled. So we went back to those 7 flights of stairs, and we found it a lot harder to go up than it was to come down. But we made it, and we walked up to our room, and Jim was standing in the hallway in front of their room. And my wife said, how in the world did you beat us back up here? And Jim said, because we never did leave. He said, Mary's still inside putting on her makeup. Now, need I say that Mary didn't like to be hurried? I think that stands out. Finally, those are some humorous, perfect things that have happened that makes her a memory forever with me. But we come to a spot when all the things we've had and known and loved have to change. Jim and Mary have walked a long road together. Since the day they left the marriage altar, they have held hands as they walked down the pathway. They have shared joys and sorrows as the years roll by. Now they have come to the bend in life's road. Suddenly the vision of home and heaven have come into sight, and holding hands and thinking of the long trip together, it's coming to a reluctant close. But with joy has come the dark shadow of sadness. So close to home, we say. You could almost see it. And now they must reluctantly part. And as they walked together, they always longed for the home waiting for them at the end of the beautiful journey. But now, with tearful eyes, their departure begins. Even now, the confidence that they will see each other again has not wavered. Our lingering farewells at this time are spoken in bittersweet moments. Tears are shed, farewells are uttered, promises made. They know, this is not final today. Their paths, though separate, will cross again. As I thought about this moment, another thing came to my mind, and it came back again and again. There's an old hymn that we used to sing in the little books that we had, not the big ones. And it's a hymn of yesteryear. And it sounds like yesteryear. And it feels like yesteryear. It's not in most of our hymn books today. And you don't hear it sung anymore. but the words still echo in my memory. Listen to this. If we never meet again this side of heaven, I will meet you on the golden shores. It's still true. It's still comforting. It's still wonderful. We'll be going to the golden shore where for the ages we will sing God's praises. Today it's not goodbye. We're saying, as they used to say, fare thee well. Fare thee well in your life. And we're saying, Mary, fare thee well till we meet again.
Would y'all please pray with me? Lord, so very thankful for the opportunity to be here and have this celebration of life. We're very grateful to be here because that means for everyone in here that we did get to know Mary. And ask that as this portion of her journey is complete, that we keep those memories and lessons that she gave us and continue to cherish those and use those as we continue on our path. So thankful for everyone that was able to be here and get us safely back to our homes. And finally, we're so thankful for the opportunity through Jesus that we'll be able to see her again one day in heaven with you. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Thank you all again for being here, honoring us as Mary has left the land of the dying to join all those with the land of the living. We're going to dismiss right here shortly, and the family is going to go back into the visitation room. If you want to, didn't get a chance to say anything to Jim, please, we'll be hanging around for a little while. Everyone is invited to the burial. No one is necessarily expected to come out there. Please just do so if you want to. There's not really going to be a ceremony. It's a time for us to simply gather and say personal goodbyes, but you are more than welcome. It will be at 2 o'clock. As noted at the Texas State Veterans Cemetery. I believe that's out on Westlake Road. You'll have time to take a little break and join us out there. There's no procession, there's no anything like that. We will reconvene at 2 o'clock there at the cemetery. And if you want to be there, that will be great. It's been a pleasure to see all of you here. It really has. And so as we dismiss here, I want to thank Brother Oglesby. Thank you in particular, and Chris. Thank you for joining in this. And God bless all, and safe travel, and above all, love each other. We're dismissed.